What's up, guys? My name is Andrew Sabrar, and welcome back to my ultimate guide to mastering bass fishing. Now listen, it's no secret that if you go to your local tackle shop or you go online to a place like Tackle Warehouse, you see so many different baits, so many different techniques on the market, but which ones should you use? And answering that question is extremely complicated, but I at least want to simplify a starting point for you guys today. So today, I'm going to be going over 10 baits and techniques that you should have in your tackle box at all times in order to help you out in most situations through the majority of the year. So the 10 baits that you see listed below me are going to be the baits that I think will cover the majority of times of year, of structure, of the different types of bass, different conditions. These 10 baits should help you catch fish throughout the entire year, no matter what the conditions are. So we are just going to go in order here, and we are going to start off with the shallow diving crankbait. Now, the square bill crankbait is my go-to for shallow diving crankbaits. It's got a nice tight wobble, and it works very well around most types of structure, but it does shine around that riprap rock and also around trees. This bait will catch those shallow fish year round. It can mimic a lot of different things like bluegill, crawdads, or shad, depending on the color. And this bait honestly has a very good track record in tournaments as well. A lot of big tournaments have been won on this bait. Next, we have what is my personal favorite rig in all of bass fishing, the Dropshot. Now, the Dropshot, in my opinion, is hands down the best, most versatile bait in all of bass fishing because you can fish it anywhere and everywhere. Whether you are throwing this thing up shallow on grass lines, through rock, around shallow structure, or you're going deep on deep rock piles and humps, this bait is going to produce almost all times of the year in any conditions. You just might have to vary the drop shot presentation to be weedless, maybe change the color of the worm up. But this rig itself, where you have the hook and the worm up top and then lower you have the weight, that rig itself is going to catch fish all times of the year. Now, I promise you later down the line, I am probably going to make multiple videos about the drop shot, because this is something that I have extensive time with, and I just can't tell you how many fish and how many tournaments I've been able to come back from because of this bait. All right, next we're going to stay on the finesse side of things. We are going to talk about the free line stick bait. Now, for those of you that fish a lot or know a lot about fishing, you know that the main stick bait that people use for this is the Gary Yamamoto Senko. Now, this bait is best fished around isolated structure, up shallow, whether it be grass lines, trees, you name it. This bait has been proven to work when any other bait won't, in those tough conditions for those fish that are shy to actually go after anything. If you throw this in front of them, they will come and eat it. It is great for those fish that you see cruising up shallow, and I'm going to give you guys another tip here. If you like to fish topwaters a lot, this bait is a perfect backup. If you ever get blown up on a topwater and they don't actually eat the bait, they'll just blow up on it and miss it. If you reel that in, you throw the stick bait out right where you saw that fish jump, a lot of times that fish will come back and eat that Senko. Now, speaking of topwaters, one of the 2 topwaters on this top 10 list is going to be a frog. Now, in most bodies of water across the world, there is some sort of grass that grows during certain times of the year. That is where this frog comes in so handy, where those baits with exposed hooks can't go over those thick matted pieces of vegetation. That is where the frog is going to shine. They have to cover a lot of water. You might not get a lot of bites, but typically you will get the right bites on this bait. Next, we have the jerkbait. Now, the jerkbait really shines on those aggressive fish. When those fish are up feeding on shad, that is where you pull out a jerkbait. With its erratic action, it just triggers those bites. This bait is best fished around schooling fish, out in those open water areas, but it also works very well around rock and riprap because the fish and the bait fish both hold on those pieces of structure. All right, next we have a jig, going back a little bit finesse here. Now, the reason I added the jig on here is because of how much success it has in tournaments and for numbers of fish. I've had the opportunity to talk to multiple pros about fishing, and something that I found interesting in my talks with multiple of them was that when asked if they could only have one bait in their boat all times of the year, what would it be? The answer that I got from multiple people was, oh, I'd love a 1/2 ounce black and blue jig. And the reasoning I got from a lot of people was it's a very proven fish catcher. You can fish it from very shallow to very deep. And this bait typically gets a larger caliber fish. It doesn't catch a lot of small fish. So between those reasons, that's why guys really like this bait. And it works all times of the year. You can bounce it on the bottom like a crawdad. You can swim it and have it look like a big shad or a bluegill. There's a lot of different things you can do with this bait, and it makes it very, very versatile. All right, so next we have the Ned Rig. Now, the Ned Rig, in my opinion, is the ultimate finesse bait, the ultimate tough conditions bait. Let's face it, we've all been there. There are days where the fish will eat nothing. In those times, that is where I pull out the Ned Rig. Now, if you can just locate where the fish are or where you think the fish are going to be, pull out the Ned Rig, fish it extremely slow on the bottom, just dragging it, maybe giving it an additional hop or two in between. You will catch fish even on the toughest days out on the water. All right, next we have a small paddle-tail swim bait. Now, this bait, in my opinion, is the ultimate search bait. Whether or not you're actually catching the fish, this bait has a lot of drawing power. And what it allows you to do is, if they are on shad, it's going to put a lot of fish in the boat. Not necessarily big, but it's going to put a lot of fish in the boat. Or you're going to get bites or follows on this bait, and that's going to tell you where those fish are. And if you can locate them, then you can slow down to some of those finesse techniques we just talked about, like a Ned Rig or a Dropshot, and then you can go back and slow down and catch those fish. I have been using this bait a lot more in tournaments lately, and my tournament partner, this is one of his most confident main baits that he uses. And so I've helped grow my own confidence in this bait, and now I see the use for it all times of the year. All right, so this next bait is actually two baits. I'm putting them in the same category. It's going to be the chatterbait and the spinnerbait. The reason I'm putting these baits in the same category is because they are very similar in style and where they're fished. They are just very interchangeable. Chatterbaits and spinnerbaits are best fished around grass or in very high winds. This bait is very much just chuck and wind, chuck and wind, chuck and wind. It's not anything you have to do very specific techniques with. Throw it out, get it down to the depth where the fish are, and you slowly reel it back. Very simple bait. It's a very effective bait, and it's very effective for larger caliber fish. And last but not least is the second topwater on this list, and that, which in my opinion, I like this style of bait, but if you have more confidence in a different one, go for it. But this is a walking style bait. Now, the reason it is called a walking bait is because it walks along the water. It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It does require a bit of skill to actually get the technique going with your rod and reel, but maybe in a later video, I can actually show that technique to you guys and help you guys out with it. Now, the reason I like the walking style bait is because it does mimic a lot of bait fish, and it has insane amounts of drawing power. This bait has caught a ton of fish for me in the past, and it catches a lot of big fish too. So that right there is a very general synopsis of my personal pick for 10 baits you should always have in your boat or in your tackle box at all times. Between these 10 baits, depending on the condition, depending on the structure, depending on the time of year, these baits will basically give you everything you need, no matter what the conditions are, to find a way to catch fish. If you guys have any specific questions about any of the baits that I talked about today, please drop them in the comments down below, and I will try and answer your questions as best as I can. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and as always, I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.